Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Have you ever tried to get a refund from a business and they told you, sorry, no, we're not going to give you your money back? Has that ever happened to you? How did that make you feel? Pretty frustrated. Well, I'm going to give you some techniques today that are going to show you how you can get your refund. I call it getting yourself into alignment. Now let me give you a couple of examples of how this worked for me. A couple of weeks ago, I booked an airline ticket to Florida for Christmas vacation. And 4 days later, my husband came up to me. My husband is about 5'10". He has short gray hair and a little goatee. He said, Connie, are you sure those dates are actually during the Christmas holiday? It seems a little early. I went to go check the calendar, and indeed he was right. I booked the trip on the wrong dates. So I called up the airline and asked them if I could get a refund. They said, sorry ma'am, no, we don't give refunds on airline tickets. In fact, we charge a $75 cancellation fee. I said, could you just waive the fee? I mean, I only just booked the trip a few days ago. Gosh, I really need that money back. They said, all right, we'll make this one exception, we'll waive the fee. But I wasn't satisfied with that. So the next day, I called my coach, Debbie. I have a life coach. She's a beautiful woman with blonde hair. She's kind of a spiritual kind of a woman. She smells like perfume. I called her and I said, Debbie, this airline won't give me my money back. What should I do? She said, Connie, you've got to get into alignment. Don't take no for an answer. Call the airline, get somebody right at the top, and see if you can get a refund. So I thought about what she said for a few days. How would you feel if somebody told you to call the top of the airline and ask for a refund? Would you even know who to talk to? Would they even take the call? Maybe they'd hang up on you. And then I decided I'm going to get into alignment. So I picked up the phone and called the airline. A woman with a very kind voice answered the phone. Yes, may I help you? I said, yes. I just bought some tickets a couple days ago and I found out I booked the wrong dates. Now I know this is very out of the ordinary. I know I'm not supposed to get a refund, but I would really appreciate it if you'd give me a refund. Is there anything you can do? I'm unemployed and I need the money. Can you help me? And the woman said, well, hold on a second, I'll see what I can do. She came back on the phone, and it was unbelievable. She said, ma'am, I have good news for you. I'm going to refund all your money. I said, thank you, have a great day, goodbye. And I got my money back. But that wasn't the only time I learned a lesson about getting into alignment. I had another situation 3 years ago. And my friend Debbie really helped me big time. And I want to share what I learned from Debbie with you so that this will never happen to you. I was living in Paris, France, in a beautiful apartment. It had a spiral staircase. It had big potted palm trees, and all the walls were painted white. One day my husband Andy came up to me and said, Connie, we've got to get a new apartment because you're pregnant and I don't want you falling down those stairs. So call the landlord, let him know we're moving out, and get yourself a refund. So, picked up the phone, called the landlord. His name was Mr. Hughes. He lived in the Caribbean. He was about 6'7", kind of grouchy with a crew cut. I said, Mr. Hughes, I'm sorry to advise, but we're moving out of the apartment. My husband's worried I may fall down the stairs. Can you please refund our $5,000 security deposit? And Mr. Hughes said,
well, I need to inspect the apartment, and if everything is okay, I'd be happy to give you a refund. After you move out, I go and inspect and I let you know.
I said, okay, sounds good. Several months passed, and I didn't hear anything from Mr. Hughes. All of a sudden one day, a letter comes in the mail. I open the letter, it says,
Dear Mrs. Good, I'm sorry to advise I'm not going to refund your $5,000. I inspected the house, the plants are practically dead, and a couple of coat hangers are missing.
How would you feel if somebody kept your $5,000 deposit just because you killed their plants? That's a little over the top, isn't it? I got on the phone and I called my friend Debbie. Debbie, I don't know what to do. My landlord, he won't refund my $5,000. I have no idea what to do. What do you suggest? And Debbie said, get into alignment. You go down to the U.S. Embassy, you go talk to a lawyer, and you speak to the person right at the top and see if they can get you some help. Now, how would you feel, Mary, if somebody told you to go to the U.S. Embassy and go ask for help from the top of the top person there? Would you even know who the top person is? Would you even know what to say? Would they even care about your situation? Well, I was pretty nervous about this, so I had to stop and think for like 3-4 days about what Debbie said. And then I decided I need to get into alignment. I need to get my refund. I marched over to the embassy. I arrived at the reception desk. There was a woman there in a very severe 3-piece suit, pinstripe, very professional looking, about 45 years old, and she said,
How may I help you, madame?
And I said, I'd like to see a lawyer. She said,
Oh, really? What kind of lawyer?
and I said, I don't know, a defense lawyer. She said,
Just a moment, please. Yes, I have someone here who wants to see a lawyer. Yes, she's an American. Can you see her? Okay, I'll send her up.
and the receptionist said to me,
Go to room 106 and talk to Mr. Keller.
so I thought, wow, this is great. I actually got through the door. How would you feel if you actually got through the door, got to the first step? I went up to room 106, and I arrived at the office of Mr. Keller. It was sort of a musty smelling office. He had one of those steel government desks. There was a cactus plant on his desk. He was a middle-aged man, and his hair was parted way over on the side. And he said, Yes, ma'am, come in, have a seat. My name is Mr. Keller. How may I help you? I said, Mr. Keller, I moved out of an apartment. I have a French landlord. He kept my $5,000 deposit because he said I killed his plants. He lives in the Caribbean. I have no recourse. Is there anything you can do? And Mr. Keller said, well, let me look into it and I'll be in touch. A couple weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. The letter had said, U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Embassy, Mr. Keller, Esquire. And it was addressed to my landlord, Mr. Hughes. It was a copy. And the letter said, Dear Mr. Hughes, it has come to my attention that you are refusing to refund Mrs. Good's deposit. Please explain the status. Sincerely yours, Mr. Keller, U.S. Embassy. I had no idea, Bob, that when I came to the embassy and said I wanted to see a defense lawyer, I had no idea they were going to put me in touch with a lawyer who was with the Department of Defense. Well, a couple weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from Mr. Hughes. I was a little bit nervous. Wouldn't you be nervous if you got a letter from Mr. Hughes? I opened up the letter, and there was a check for $5,000. How would you feel if you went through all that trouble and you actually triumphed? Wouldn't you feel fantastic? I feel victorious. I felt triumphant. Now, in conclusion, I want you all to learn something really important from this experience. Number one, if somebody tells you they won't give you a refund, don't take no for an answer. Number two, go and ask for help. Help is always available to you. And number three, go right to the top. Just go right to the top, to the person who can make a decision. And remember, keep yourself in alignment. You can be empowered.
Thank you so much for the stories. I love the story. They are very, very interesting. And I particularly like how you set up the speech. It's very intriguing. I'm going to show you how do you get your refund. I like your gestures. You're very animated on stage, and that's very, very nice. And you got your prop, you got your letters, so I make it more believable. I like your descriptive language, like you describe things that I can even literally see it as you describe them. I have to admit that after 10 minutes, I still don't quite get it exactly. What does this have anything to do with alignment? Maybe I still couldn't make the connection, and I was a bit confused about Debbie's role. Is she your friend or a coach or both? Then you got tapes in your palm. I don't know. I was distracted by that. I didn't know why that's that for.
Okay.
And one last minor thing is, as you put the imaginary phone down, put it down. You're like throwing the phone as you see the tape. I was like, did Connie just throw the phone on the table?
Yeah. I had a great time listening to your story. I think even from the very beginning, I was very being drawn to your conversation because it's actually a very interesting topic. Because as a woman, you always look like kind of a weak person, right? How you protect yourself, how you do it wisely. So it's a very interesting topic, and you demonstrate it well. I also like you use full of dialogue in the stories you tell. So it basically tells two stories, and it's so much details. Feels like I'm right there with you. I can see the scatters on the desk, and I can see this lawyer and then see this woman. So that's great. One thing I would like to see better is that I do feel you tell two stories in a very similar style. So if you do it the second time, you feel sort of less interesting than the first time you just see it. So maybe you can do a little bit of a variety between two stories. But I do like the idea you have two stories to demonstrate the point.
Connie, I really enjoyed that presentation. The story of getting into alignment and getting what you want out of life. Don't say yes to no. Just keep on pushing. That's what I felt alignment meant. Yeah. So I can't see anything you did wrong. I like the storytelling, the changing of the voice that brings you into it. And you use a couple of our names in the audience. That's very effective.
Connie, getting there. I like the benefit. You mentioned up front the benefit. It's very, as we talk about that, as you're speaking coach, you talk about that a little bit. So that's great. People know what they're going to get out of it. You had a story. Things were seen, known, and heard. I think that was effective. Challenge, of course, with a story, when you have two stories that are kind of similar, is how do you make them different? How do you really point out the different things? At least you had a story. That was very effective. And you had humor. You had some on-purpose humor and some accidental humor. And they both kind of worked. The thing about it is I don't think, in my opinion, the funny voices really work. I just think that it's best just to do something straight. Unless you're a natural person like Don not Don Rickles, but I can't think of the guy. The guy's a ventriloquist, but not a ventriloquist. Does impersonations. Some people do that. Then just don't do it. Just a regular thing, because it can be hard to understand and hard to hear, especially if people are, English isn't their first language. So just straight voice. You can tell who's saying things you said, so-and-so said, and so-and-so said. And then the biggest challenge, I think, here is realistic gestures. Like this doesn't mean alignment. Doesn't make any sense as far as alignment. And another thing is being careful and realistic is not jerky. I mean, this sort of thing, the Mr. Roboto thing, after a while, it gets strange. You can see that on the thing there a little bit, where it just gets a little bit too, hi there, how are you? Bob over here, and there is Julia. So, think about it naturally. And one thing Darren McCrory talks about, the world champion speaker knows best, is just don't think about practicing gestures. I think that's what you've kind of a trap you fall into. Just think of, okay, I'm going to gesture something, how am I going to do it? Like, hey, Bob, how are you doing? That sort of thing. Hey, Julie, how are you doing? Be more natural. Like, that's the biggest challenge right now. And then finally, process. What's the process? What are the definite process and steps you go through that process? It's kind of unclear to Julie, it's kind of unclear to me. What really are the process steps we're talking about? And how can people use those process steps? And then acknowledging, any confusion people have. Here's why it's alignment. Here's why it makes sense alignment. Audience dialogue, that type of thing.
Okay, I thought your stories overall were very interesting. There were stories that people could relate to if the airline took and getting a security deposit back on rent. I'd have to echo, though, Julia's comments. I was trying to figure out exactly how getting alignment meant. I think it means like getting even, but I wasn't totally sure throughout the course of the speech on that. And it seems that you were being turned down. Maybe I thought you could have been a little angrier or sadder, but still the elation when you did get your refund, that was very clear. And again, they were interesting stories, which made for an interesting speech.
Connie, I was absolutely captivated by your speech. I loved it. You could have gone on for 10 more minutes, and I would still be captivated. It was very good. A great topic. Your introduction caught our attention right away. It was really good. Your conclusion, I liked how you summed up the three. Don't take no for an answer. Go to the top is the one I'm going to remember. I might not do it, but I'll remember. Going back to what Tim said about the gestures, yes, there were some that felt awkward, but overall I felt most of your gestures I really liked. Pregnant and the spiral staircase and some others. And the V for victory I thought was really good. The way your whole body made that V. So I liked all those. And building on what others have said or repeating, was not completely sure how the phrase came. I find that we're all coming up with different ideas and your own intent might not be as clear as it could be.
Connie, let me tell you everything I loved about your speech. The vocal variety captivated me. That's something I want to constantly work on. I love the way that you did the vocals for all of the characters, especially the letter. The way you read the letter, I can picture the guy as he was writing it, how he looked. So you were very vivid in the way you explained the characters that it did for me, and many of the others have stated also it painted a picture. The constant questions to the audience. You sort of kept it organized enough that it was pretty engaging, so I thought you did that extremely well. I thought vocals and body were pretty much in sync, especially when you talked about the situation in Paris. A few things I would encourage, because I don't want to repeat things other people have said, but when you did the character always involving you, the vocals were really prominent to me. You could have probably want to think about when you do your other characters. Since I feel your voice is matching pretty good, give some unique characteristics, body language to those characters as well. That would have painted a really good picture for me. Now going back to the alignment issue. I'm concluding alignment meant don't take no for an answer. No for an answer. I don't remember right now.
Get some help, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. I am one of those individuals, abstracts, forget it. Doesn't work with me. If you had probably either defined what you meant by alignment in the beginning, I think I would have tracked a lot better because every time you said, get into alignment, I'm sitting here thinking, but what is it? So, for me,
That's because you're not aligned.
I'm telling you. So I think for me personally, if that would have been defined right up in the beginning, I think I would have been fine. But other than that, very entertaining, very engaging. I have to agree with Mary. I could have heard you talk even longer. I said, doggone it, she's pretty good. I'm going to have to steal some pointers from her. Especially just the vocal with the phone. And I thought that was done extremely well. But again, just the alignment thing and just matching those other characters. Just as strong as your own character with body language. The other characters as